Oh.
Nope. There's no vehicles, so I just thought, uh-oh, I must have misread.
We just didn't Zoom on ours. We didn't even start the Zoom because they on that. So.
All right. Hello, everybody. We will start our evening meeting. We'll call it to order. And we have a roll call, please.
Yes. Trustee Giroux?
Here.
Trustee Billups?
Here.
Trustee Erbst?
Here.
Trustee Pomponio? Trustee Robinson?
Here. Okay. We will all stand up to say the flag salute behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next will be approval of the agenda. Looks like we've had some additions. Is that right? Okay. Okay.
So I move that we accept the agenda as it is.
Second.
Oh.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any further changes or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now I see Angie up there. Is there a way we can get her so we can hear her as well? Okay. Next is the consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Oh, it didn't have a letter next to it. Okay. That's okay. So next will be public input, and we do have one request for public input tonight by Mrs. Haig.
My tech training coming in handy.
Exactly, the red light.
Good evening. My name is Annette Haig, and I'm a social studies teacher here at Orofino Junior Senior High School. I stand before you here tonight because of this little baby. This is Trevin Charlie, my newest granddaughter. And as cute and strong as she is now, it's been quite a journey to get to this point. She was born in January at only 2 pounds and 11 weeks premature. And she spent 2 months in the intensive care unit at Kootenai Medical Center. But she's a fighter, strong, determined, and now ready to set the world on fire. In addition to my dad having graduated at OHS, my partner Dale graduating Timberline High School, myself graduating from Orofino High School, and my son also graduating from Orofino High School, I have dedicated my life working for the same district since 2002 in a few different capacities. I've been a diehard
Okay,
advocate.
Mrs.
for
Haig,
both
I need you to
students-
stop. We can't have you talk about anything regarding your employment or anything regarding personnel or staff during an open meeting. You can talk personal information, but nothing regarding your employment.
Okay.
It's at the top of that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to talk about
Here,
my
I'll pause.
duties. I'm not allowed to talk about my duties at school.
Nothing regarding your employment, about any staff personnel, yourself, or any other staff anything having to do with the functions of the school itself because you're an employee. If you read the top of that notice, did you fill out one of those forms?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's actually because of district policies that I'm here.
Then if this is regarding district policies as an employee, it has to be done under executive session.
Oh, I'm just commenting in general. There's no specifics. And I haven't used any names.
Okay. Then I'm just going to ask you not to speak about your personal employment, but you can say anything else in general, just nothing about your personal employment or anybody else's personal employment.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go ahead and restart the timer if you're ready to resume, or if you need a minute.
I guess I will read. In parting, I would like to let all students know that I will fully intend to work as hard as I ever have for them. And a message to the board. I hope you continue to make decisions with the realization that what you do changes the course and direction of people's lives. Their futures and the futures of students and people in this community. I hope that you all get out as often as you possibly can and actually go to the buildings to see the relationships being built. Our young people are building relationships with X, 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 and X in the buildings. I hope you make decisions from your current position based on information that you personally gain, and that you use your best judgment to make decisions that you gain from information you have learned yourselves. To administration.
Mrs. Haig, that's the end of your 3 minutes.
Pardon me?
I said that's the end of your
Yes,
3
but
minutes.
I was paused because
And I
was
paused
given
the
direction.
timer and I didn't restart it until you started speaking again.
To the administration, I hope you continue to answer the tough questions of our district,
Mrs.
like
Haig,
the unprecedented staff turnover of classified, certified, and district
Mrs.
office
Haig,
personnel,
I need you to please stop.
the dramatic reduction in student enrollment,
So the other school board members.
and the
I'm gonna
waning
ask you to step
stakeholder
out for a minute
support.
because she's violating.
With that,
Absolutely.
I resign my current position effective at the end of my contract, August 2021.
Yes, please.
And it's my
I
hope
need you to get it.
that when my granddaughter looks
Mr.
at me,
Phillips,
she
Mr.
sees
Phillips, I
someone
need
that
you to
is
leave the room.
an advocate for morally and just behavior, that people are treated fairly, kindly, and with respect. I would never sacrifice my strongly held beliefs for a paycheck. And with that, Trev and Charlie and I have dragons to slay.
All right. Go ahead and. All right, so we are going to move on. Oh, I could see, yep, we're going to move on to consent agenda. If I can have a motion for consent agenda, please.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any modifications or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Reports and recognitions. Dr. Garrett?
Yeah, I put our principals here at Orofino for some of the things that they've been through here in the last several weeks and months. It's been a very difficult time, I know, for them and their teams. So that's reaching out to their teams as well. So I just wanted to put them on there because they've been great to work with and very cooperative and very suggestive and very helpful. So we appreciate that. And I see Mr. Lee is here, and I know Ms. Pomponio was in here as well. So just wanted to extend that thank you.
All right. Committee reports. Let's see. There weren't any, well, no committee reports, but we're going to be addressing the policies later on in the meeting.
Correct.
Building reports. Did everybody have a chance to look through those? Okay.
Yes.
Anything anybody wanted to add? Okay. I noticed Mr. Lee is adjusting the online schooling schedule and explained some pretty good reasoning for that. So.
Yeah, and he had brought that to me, and I just received it just over the weekend. So we're still in discussion with that to get that finalized. So with input from his team, and they're the ones that have been through the ringer, so they know what can and can't work. So
I have
appreciate
one
that.
question. Is having the scheduled set times for the class periods online, that's working a whole lot better than just the way we did it in the spring?
Yes, having the schedules at set times is better, but the times allocated were not long enough. What we ran into, and this is through student feedback, teacher feedback, and parent feedback, is that the students were receiving direct instruction, but then not having time to practice whatever the teacher has just instructed. And so by the time the end of the day came where we were supposed to have time for students to come on to get additional support, they weren't coming on to do that, or they were just getting lost because they were having a tough time going back to work that they'd been asked to do first period and retaining the instruction from the teacher at that point. And so in collaboration with our leadership team here in the building, as well as the students, they felt that if not a full period like you would in a traditional day, but if they could get 20 more minutes of time to have guided practice, that would be very beneficial to them. We did see a dramatic decline in our grades when we went online through all students. That wasn't just students who traditionally would maybe struggle or who were already struggling with their grades. That was our A students, B students. There was pretty much a letter grade drop for many students across the board. And so we wanted to go back to the drawing board and figure out what can we do differently to support our kids if we do, which we all hope we don't. We're doing everything we can to not, but if we do have to go back to any online instruction, how to better support the kids in that role. And so with the schedule proposed, it would still allow us an hour and a half at the end of the day to offer even additional supports for the kids who might be struggling a little bit more. But we feel like offering that support during that class period, during the online instruction, will have more continuity and allow for better retention of the knowledge as well as work completion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for any of our building administrators, or if there's any online that would like to add any additional input? Okay, thank you for all your hard work. I know this year's been the usual plus all the COVID, so I know that takes up a lot of extra time. So thank you for everybody's dedication. Program reports. We've had a lot of new good technology things going on in the district and waiting for deliveries, it sounds like. Ben did actually write up quite a thorough proposal about some of our transportation issues and
Mhm.
some recommendations to try and meet those needs of hiring more bus drivers. So I want to thank Ben for putting some good thought into that and creating that
Yep.
worksheet and proposal.
Yeah, I agree. Not only did he present the problems, but offering suggestions to fix those problems. It was very thorough.
And I will be meeting with him to discuss those a little bit further and bring those to you guys as well.
Okay,
So.
great.
We do have some bus drivers at the academy.
Mhm.
I don't know availability, hours, things like that, but
Okay.
there might be some of those guys that might make themselves available.
Awesome. I will. So who would I contact there? Trevor?
Yeah.
Mr. Sparrow? Okay. I will do that. Thank you.
One
Uh,
question
I
I was
ju-
going to throw
yeah.
out is whether or not we could add any of the COVID relief funds towards either overtime or additional substitute busing, or I don't know.
So as we get to this one of these discussions about the governor's money, that is one of the possibilities.
Great.
Some of the other, like the CARES money, as we go down through, and I have a spreadsheet I want to share with you guys as well. But in particular, like the CARES money is very difficult to use that for salary or benefits because it's very earmarked for what you can use, supplies, ventilation systems, those type of things. The governor's money, and like I said, when we get down to that, you'll be able to see that it's a little bit more flexible. So we might be able to work something in with that. So I have a couple of proposals for you as well.
Great.
My question was, are we going to actually have an executive session tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
We are. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So any other questions about program reports or comments? If not, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Yeah. I forgot I did that. I think one of the things that I've been trying to do, as much as anybody is trying to communicate, with our constituents and with everybody I can. You guys have seen some of the video updates I've done. And last week I was at Timberline and I wanted to do one there to kind of feature some positive things as well. And I want to do that throughout our district. So we're going to twist some of those things in because I know everybody's getting tired of hearing of COVID and all the issues we're having. We want to turn those into some positives and really report on those. So we'll continue to do that. Again, this governor's money, which we're getting ready to get into some of that discussion, that one has a little bit tighter time frame on the spending. And we'll get to some of that details here in just a minute. So one of our big struggles with our employees and, as employees are going out, whether they're quarantined or COVID or whatever it might be, finding substitutes is still an issue, just like what Ben's having with drivers as well. So keeping people in place has been a difficult challenge. So those are things we're trying to get creative and trying to figure out how we can get more people in. And we have had a little bit of a flurry of people coming in and registering to sub, and you can see there's a list that we're going to look at here in a little bit as well. We are going to go ahead and move forward with our accreditation. So our accreditation, we had started we started it last fall, and we were planning on doing our accreditation, I believe it was last spring. And then when all this got shut down and everything happened, so we postponed it. We're going to do that in December, the week of December 7th. And I'm working on a schedule. In fact, I'm meeting with the leadership team tomorrow to help set up those schedules. So it'll be that week. What they'll do is they're actually going to do it virtually, but we'll still have to have a schedule where they can interview teachers, and they'll interview some of the board members. There'll be some parents involved. There'll be some students involved. So we'll get all those schedules set up, and we'll let you guys see all that as it comes. So it's a great experience to really see inside the schools. And with the district as diverse as ours, it's something that really brings it to the surface and shows us that we have a lot of good strengths in a lot of different areas. So, they point those out as well as the weaknesses. And this year is a little different. So, it's going to be a challenge, but we're going to go back and start reviewing all the information that we compiled last year and the summaries and those type of things, and get ourselves fresh with that here coming in November. So I'll be forwarding some of that information to you as well, so you have that. One of the other things, the CARES money, we were looking at utilizing that for some of the fixtures in our bathrooms. We still have some of the fixtures where you hold on and wash this hand, and then you hold and wash this hand. So we're looking at hands-free type things, that we're trying to do that. So I had a plumber that was lined up to come and give us an estimate last week. Of course, COVID got in the way of that for himself. Couldn't come. So whenever that's over, we'll have people in and we'll get some estimates and get those to you guys. So
Just a quick question.
Sure.
So I know the high school is like that. I believe the elementary school is mostly censored, right?
in the main bathrooms, but we
Okay.
have sinks in almost every room. So we're looking at
Oh,
some of those as well.
Okay, for the sinks in the
And then
rooms.
if you go to Timberline and some of the other outlying schools like Cavendish and Peck, they
Mhm.
are not electronic.
They're
as well.
electronic.
Yeah.
Okay, they're the
So
old
there-
fashioned.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's some that are and some that aren't. It's kind of a mix.
Okay.
So we're going to go through and try to get those cleaned up. Same way with some of the toilets and
Mhm.
urinals and things as well, and lighting.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Great.
Good use of the money, I think. Something that probably needed to be done anyway.
paper towel dispensers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And one of the things is, the battery operated. I mean, if we have to go to electric type things, well, then you're talking about even more expenses. So we're looking at battery powered even on the paper towel dispensers as well. So, yep. Good stuff.
Okay.
What else? Did you guys have any other questions from my report? Anything? Nope. Awesome.
Well, I guess I realized I had a couple finance questions
Mm-hmm.
from budget, but of course we approved it and we never really discussed that very often. But just a couple things I wanted to comment on. Which building had the heat and roofing charges this past month
This one we
here
we
in
put
the
in,
high
yeah.
school? Okay,
Yep.
okay,
And the roofing charges were from Orofino Elementary,
okay.
and then the heating systems were here.
Was here,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
And then I noticed that there were driver's ed reimbursement
Mm-hmm.
charges, which I had not seen before.
Right.
Was that for kids from the spring who didn't get a chance to do their driver's ed?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we did was, those were, and I was at the like 800, 600 or 800 and some
Um,
dollars.
I think most of them were only about 150, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
So, the reimbursements, those were for the kids that did not complete the classes. So they never did complete the classes through us, so
Makes
we
sense.
reimbursed them
Oh,
personally.
okay.
It was a
Okay.
fee they had paid up front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Good questions.
Those are good questions.
Yeah,
And then actually, I'm just going to throw this out there.
that's fine.
So I've thought this for years, but I've never said anything. Does a copier rental really cost that much?
Yes, yes, it does.
One would think you could buy one for
Yes.
that charge.
It's a pretty expensive piece of equipment.
Okay.
In every single building in multiple places.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and if we, Chromebooks, we should be able to not have to have those, right?
One would think.
And
Let's not, I see Mr. Lee shaking his head. No, it's not true.
at the academy, we deal with that, and the good thing about that cost is that there's.
It's a service
repair is
contract. Yep.
Supposed to be Johnny on the spot.
Yep.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yep.
So there is some benefit to
There
that
is.
rental.
Yeah.
There is. It's part of.
You
yes.
don't own the
Yeah,
problems.
right. Exactly. You're exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the ink and all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I've thought that
No,
for
that's okay.
a couple of years and never brought
Yeah,
it up.
well, that's good. All those questions, you need to ask them.
Did you read all 40 pages?
I did. But, my name goes on some
I'm
of these
impressed.
checks,
Yeah.
so I
I'm
kind of have to
impressed.
be a
Yeah.
little bit more vigilant.
I was
It's a
gonna-
new ownership.
I was going to say, we
responsibility.
is there any way we could simplify that thing?
And well, that's the budget part of it.
Right.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, that's the one is the monthly checks that basically
Right.
go out.
Yeah, I see that.
And for
yeah.
the big picture, like I used to more look at just the budget and how are
Yeah.
things balancing and are we not making sure we're not overspending. But now that my name's on those checks, I
Yeah.
do tend to be a little
It's a
bit
good thing
more
to read it.
vigilant. I try to.
The accounts payable can add up really quickly.
Yeah.
We have a lot going on in the district.
With those detailed things, as a former softball coach, I couldn't help but notice the district softball tournament charge in September, and I have to ask.
I have no idea. Who's in the district softball tournament?
Was that last month?
Oh,
How
for,
much was it?
you mean for, it was
September-
travel for districts,
It
is
was-
what you're saying.
Yeah, district softball in September normally isn't a thing. And I just noticed, and maybe it's a misprint,
I
but
would say it is.
on the balance sheet for Orofino High School, district softball tournament, $822.
Whoa.
That's how much it costs. What that tells me is it probably was not paid.
Yeah.
I see.
Billed because of COVID on time, or it wasn't paid on time.
I see.
And so with COVID, we had a lot of late bills.
We didn't have a district softball tournament though, did we? We didn't have district softball, did we?
Not this last year.
Let me ask Brittany and see where that came from as well, because I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, there might have been, if it was scheduled,
Mhm.
there might have been some reservation charges or,
And it could have just been entered in as as a wrong sport or something as well. I'm not sure. I'll check and I'll let you guys know. I'll shoot you
yeah,
an email.
I wondered, usually a sporting event I don't miss, so
Right.
it's just kind of surprising.
Very good, Greg.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the dollar figure, if you don't mind me asking on that?
82207.
Quite a bit of money.
Okay.
82207.
And was it on the, just to kind of help him, was it on the actual high school's monthly report, or was it on the itemized budget?
On the Orofino High School.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
So that may have gotten
Gotcha.
reimbursed back to you guys at some,
yeah.
I don't know. I'll check and see. We're, we're still learning in the district office with new business manager and, accounts payable. We're getting there. So I'll definitely check it out. Thank you. Yeah, it was an expense from the,
Yeah.
right.
And that's,
Could have been.
Oh, there you go. That's probably what happened. Yeah.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
So it's on their sheet. Yeah. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
yeah, it's listed as September 30th accrual basis on the balance sheet.
All right. Well, good. So those were a few extra little things for you this
That's fine.
time. Good.
That's okay. I'm glad.
All right. Are we ready to move on to discussion items?
Sure.
Okay. We'll start with the school operational plan.
So with where we're at right now with our district, last week we were in yellow, I believe, at Orofino Elementary and Orofino Junior Senior High School. So we're looking at numbers we have this week, and I'll just kind of give you a summary of where we're at today with what we have with positives and quarantines at this point at each one of the schools. So, and we're awaiting some test results as well. So COVID positives currently, and this is as of today, we have 1 at OES and 4 at Orofino High School. We have awaiting test results. We have 4 at Orofino High School, and we have quarantined as a result of direct contact is 1 at Timberline, 6 at Orofino Junior Senior High School, and 34 at Orofino Elementary at this point. So one of those, 24 of those, I guess, at Orofino Elementary School started this week. And it's a cohort, it's a single class of members. So there's 24 kids in that class due to a positive. So that's where we're at with that.
Do we
Question?
anticipate all of those kids being tested or just quarantined?
No, that's hard to say. I mean, it's up to the parents to do that if they're going to be tested, but not that I'm aware of. So
So I'm assuming somebody was symptomatic, most likely that prompted that, or are we privy to that information?
there's a positive case, of a student. So, yeah, I don't know how else to say that without giving more information or more details.
Yeah,
So
and
that prompted the cohort to be being exposed. And that's why we cohorted the kids, this year at the students at Orofino Elementary to help prevent that from doing the whole grade level just the kids in that classroom and the teacher. So again, the discussions we have every week, I guess, or every 2 weeks, is every day is different. I mean, every single day we manage it differently because we learn of either exposed cases or, contact cases, direct contact or positives or waiting on a test result or whatever it might be. So every day it's different. And we have to make those decisions based on what we have, whether it is, our faculty out or staff out, whether it's kids out. For the most part, parents are coming to us and letting us know that. I mean, we still have some that I'm sure that are not. We don't know. As the kids are, illness in the schools, obviously if a kid's not feeling well, it doesn't matter what it is. If they have a fever or they're not feeling well, we generally call the parents and try to send them home. And that's just our practice in not just COVID times. So we're sticking to that. Our biggest challenge again is whenever we have quarantined, employees who have students that are their own kids that are quarantined or whatever it might be, well, then they're not accessible to us. So we have to have subs. So again, it comes down to a lot of the contact tracing and those type of things from public health. But our biggest challenge right now is keeping our adults, in due to some of the kid relations they have, their own students. Their own personal kids, if that makes sense.
What's the absenteeism looking like as of late?
So you mean at each of the, student-wise, like at Orofino?
Yeah, like the last time we met was in the 70
Right.
neighborhood.
So I don't have that answer. Do you have that for today's report on yours? Yeah. Yeah.
Traditionally, we'd be up around 94. But that's a far cry from where we were. And those are a lot of due to what Dr. Garrett listed as positive cases and close contacts. So yeah, we're slowly coming back up. We've seen gains every day, shutting all the pathways off.
Good. Yeah.
And that was
Very
kind
good.
of a unique situation with having the entire teams. I know we all know that, when you have that number of kids, because that was the entire team, which affected numerous kids. So, and again, we're to the, we asked last time to, mask our teachers and our employees. And we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't had any out due to that. We've had them out due to their own children being out. So that seems to be effective at keeping our employees in. And, once we're running through some of these cycles with these kids, we're seeing that it's, fewer kids. It's not spreading as far. We're not having direct contact with as many kids if they're masked. So it comes down to the same thing. If they're facial covering, well, then they're not getting quarantined. So that's helped us tremendously on our numbers. And I just texted Ms. Pomponio. She said they've been ranging about 40 a day, 20 in quarantine last week, and then with some being, with teachers on top of that, of course. So about 40 a day. And her normal, we talked about that before. She's always going to have about 20 out in a normal year. So 20 to 25, so that's double, roughly double, not quite double. So. In Timberline, we haven't seen a significant, we see kind of the same numbers they're seeing, they see every year at this point. So.
Nothing likes to travel up the hill, even with COVID, right?
I think it's the traveling down to get tested that doesn't like. It's a windy road between here and there.
Is there any way that we could, and I hate to ask extra work of anybody, but if we could get a spreadsheet with week to week, the absences, the total number of students gone and the total number of staff gone, so that we can see it,
So we track it, and they're tracking it on Skyward. And as a student is out, the difficulty is not having that student information on there. So basically they're tracking, and we have different codes that if they are out, if they're positive, well, then it ends up with a P, right? That's what we decided. And then if they're quarantined, it's a Q. And then they put the Q in for that many days that they're supposed to be out. So we can see that report on a daily basis. Now, obviously that changes, and it's difficult to get that up to date. So some of the delays, as usual, and we've talked about this a million times, and I hate to, beat a dead horse, but from the time the testing happens, if they're not doing a rapid test, well, then, it can be up to 3 days until we get the test results. And then public health right now is almost a week behind. I mean, it's, several days behind before we get some of those answers. So that's difficult to manage whenever you're already a week into quarantine. So, yeah, so that's been a hard thing to manage as well. And I think Carol is on here. Did you get her pulled up? So Carol Morley's here as well from Public Health. If you guys have questions for her, I asked her to be here as a guest for you guys to ask questions.
Okay. I actually had one question for her. Carol, this is Charity Robinson.
Let's pull her up here.
There
first.
she is. So I know that our region 2 green, yellow, orange, red zone is based on the entire region. So that would be all of the different school districts within that region have to meet those criteria. Have you guys talked at all about trying to make something a little bit more specific for a smaller town that might have a outbreak without the rest of the region having an outbreak?
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. That's a great question. And we have, so for our public health district that covers 5 counties, each county, like you said, just has its own rating, not just for schools, but for the whole of the county. So what goes on in the schools, but primarily to look at the numbers that are going on county-wide. We are in the process of looking at whether or not we can drill that data down by zip code, which might give us a better indication of where the school districts are in a zip code rather than just county-wide. So would that be helpful for you?
Yes, it would.
Yeah, that might be helpful, especially with our district being set up the way that it is. We have possibly a crisis in Orofino, but may not affect the other schools within the district, or vice versa. We could have a crisis up at Timberline that wouldn't necessarily affect Orofino.
Right.
So that is something maybe to look at. But I was actually even thinking about separating it just for the county. I don't know if you guys actually have criteria of county specific rather than region specific.
Well, we
And
do
she
break
does
it out by
Oh, but
county.
she sends you guys report.
Yeah.
Okay.
You send us a report daily on that to us, and I'm not sure who all that goes to, Carol, but I receive that daily, and I could forward that on to you guys if you want to see it.
Okay.
And that's easy enough. So I think she tries to do that.
That would be great. And we do have, I'm just querying our own data. So on our idahopublichealth.com website, we have a dashboard that you can actually do your own querying of. So I'm just by county. So in Clearwater County, for instance, we've had since the beginning of in middle of March 14th, we've had 125 cases in Clearwater County. And then if you look at the age range, and I know you won't be able to see this, but this we'll have Dr. Garrett send you this data. 26 of these are in the 40-year-old range, 19 are in the 50-year-old range, 15 are in the 30-year-old range, 18 are in the 18 to 30-year-old range, and 22 are in the 13 to 17-year-old range. So you can break it out and it shows you what age range it is in your county. Now, again, it doesn't say specifically by school district, but at least for the county, it can give you an indication of where the cases are accumulating in what age range. If similarly, you look at the Latah County data, you will see that the 18 to 29-year-old population has about 83% of their data, their positive cases are in that age group. And it's because of the University of Idaho and the testing that they're doing there. So data can be very helpful, and we're happy to share any that we possibly can with you.
Thank you, Carol. I had a question going back to the phase considerations, yellow, green, et cetera. How much does the hospitalization rate factor into that?
Great question. And if you'll know, on public health, when we designed our phases with lots of public input, case count, hospitalization rates, and the number of days it's taking to get our test results back, like Dr. Garrett said, are the 3 indicators that we're using in our health district.
Thank you. And what do in our health district, what do the hospitalization rates look like right now?
She's paused,
frozen.
she's frozen.
It's a problem in Lewiston.
Twitter at work again.
Did you mute her, Russell? Come on. Hopefully she'll come back.
Hopefully.
So while we're waiting on her, we meet as a superintendent's group weekly on Wednesdays, and she is part of our group. So she's been very helpful with those, any kind of questions like that come up. She's more than willing to answer those. So I'm glad you asked those, because that's what we need to do, is get those clarifications. So.
And you might be able to answer this. So what she was about to talk about was this breakdown of case counts, hospitalizations, and the how quickly the results are being released. I know that they have that criteria based on region 2, but do they have that criteria based on county as well?
The only thing we have so when we get the reports, what I get are the positive cases. I don't have any quarantines. I don't have any delay, what the labs or what the hospitalizations are.
Okay.
So the only way, and I've never seen that, being able to filter that on their site.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I've only been able to see the positive cases per county, just like what she was talking about. So, and their site, if you go on, I don't know if you guys have been on that site, it's got a really good filter system on it. So you can just hover over and it'll tell you, give you a pie graph or a chart, whatever you need to do to look at it in different ways. So very helpful. If you look at like Clearwater County just this last week, obviously we had a spike last week and it started to come down a little bit, but today it was back up. Yesterday it was down, I think, over the weekend, but it's back up today. Well, is that a result of the lab not doing anything on Sundays? So we don't know those things. But if you look at the trends, it's been pretty steady over the last week, but I think we're hoping we see a decrease this week, but don't know. We've been seeing the decrease in our schools with quarantines and that, but I say it again, I think it's a direct result that we're not projecting it. We're covering and we're learning from it. So there she is. Sorry. She texted me. Said she's trying to get back on. So she'll be back on in a minute. Will that kick her back into the... Okay, thank you. So what other questions do you guys have?
I'd like to know what our recommendation is, considering the spike in cases we've had over the last 2 or 3 weeks. If our goal is keeping kids in school, what would be the public health recommendation to do that?
She's back. Back, but she's muted. There you are.
Okay. My apology. Our network is usually pretty stable. I apologize for that disconnect.
No worries, Carol.
So you'll have a couple questions fielded here. So I think Greg was in the middle of one first.
Yeah, we were talking about hospitalization rates and how that factors into the decision making as far as the yellow green coding goes.
So for public health and across our counties, it's an equal partner with the number of cases we have. So right now we have a spike in cases, but our hospital rate continues to be very low, and we're very thankful for that. Others across the state, they've seen spikes in their intensive care admits and their hospital admits due to COVID. So it's an equal partner as we look at the data in our health district too. So we have to have a spike in cases and a spike in health hospitalizations and a spike in the amount of days that it takes for us to get turnaround on lab tests in order for public health to move between our colors.
Thank you.
And Carol, that leads into my question is, when you're looking at those numbers throughout the entire region, it doesn't necessarily allow for smaller towns having isolated outbreaks. And I just wanted to know if public health has all looked into breaking that down for smaller communities, especially smaller communities that may have a large proportion of positive tests and positive hospitalizations locally, but it's not occurring at the same rate, and the rest of the region could dilute those numbers.
That's a really good question, and you're exactly right. We are using a rate. We're using a rate by 10,000 population. But again, when you get into very small communities, those rates aren't indicative of really what's going on either. So I'll take that input back. Our board meets next week, and we'll be looking at our data again.
Carol, with our
And
spike. Sorry, Charity.
No, I was saying, go ahead, Angie, your turn.
Oh, I was just saying with the spike that we've had over the last 2 to 3 weeks, specifically in the schools, and our goal has been to keep kids in school. What recommendations do you have for us to get that job done?
So public health consults with your staff, the school staff, and then school nurse on a frequent basis. And we give recommendations or guidance usually, or act as a resource for you all. Some of the things that we have talked about in the past are how to keep social distancing in place, because we know if there's distance between the kids, that virus falls out before it reaches other people. One of those best practices is masks, even though it's not supported by all people. We are seeing across the state, though, the schools that are wearing masks, the teachers and the students, they can have a case in the classroom, but it's not traveling between them necessarily. So they're able to keep the classroom or their pods open and in school more frequently. And we're not mandating masks. My Board of Health will not be mandating masks. That's a discussion we've had in the past as well. But a recommendation for masks, especially those that might have health issues, is definitely a priority if that can be managed by the people that need to wear them.
Thank you.
And for clarity's sake, just so that our patrons that are online know, we are currently in the yellow as far as the school goes. Is that correct?
So I think I can answer that. That's something that they don't determine. We do.
They determine the region.
Right.
So the green, yellow, red.
And we do individually.
Mhm.
So each school district will do their own. And we even went further to break it down per school based on, numbers.
Right.
Our original plan, we had talked about, if we have one school, we're going to look at all of them. But what makes sense is we can isolate within one school. So.
Any other questions for Carol? All right. Thank you very much, Carol, for being here, for meeting and answering some questions. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Very much
you.
appreciated.
Thank you. Go
Thank
home,
you.
Carol. she's always available.
That's great.
She works a lot of hours.
Mhm.
Very appreciative.
Okay, so do you want to move on to the governor's
Sure.
money use?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, and I meant to share this with you today. I just created some of these, but so let me kind of go through what we've received with our COVID money, and I'll just call it all COVID money, but there's different areas of it that are earmarked for specific things. So let's go back to last spring. Last spring, there was CARES money in the form of $169,482. So this CARES money was, at the time, they told us it was to basically supplant or substitute for what we lacked for what they cut us, the 1% at the end of the year. So we go through into the summer. Well, then suddenly it is earmarked for only COVID things. So what we utilize that money for, just so I can the whole history of it, we build our budget with that money in it, filling in some shortfalls of this year's projections. So what we've had to do with that 169,000 is carve it back out of our budget. So we've had to take the bits and pieces back because a few of the things we did are not going to damage us a lot because of things like our maintenance, supplies, those type of things. We inflated a little bit. So we inflated them about 20% because we knew we were going to have to get more cleaning supplies, more, those type of things. So whenever we take that back out, we're back to our original budget numbers. If that kind of makes sense. So with taking all that out and looking at it, we have to figure out how exactly we're going to spend it. How can we do it? We have to track it and report it. So that's what Brittany's been doing with the help of the principals, going back and looking through what we've spent it on this year, which has been cleaning supplies. We've done lots of dividers. We've done lots of different things with it that are, what it was earmarked for. So that 169,000 we're going to continue to spend. A couple of the other items we're looking at doing, again, our faucets, our fixtures, those type of things in the bathrooms, ventilation systems in our gymnasiums. And the reason we're looking at those in particular is because we are utilizing our gymnasiums across the district much more than we ever did before for social distancing, spacing, mask breaks, et cetera, et cetera. So getting some circulation in those buildings so they can have the proper ventilation. I'm in the process of getting those numbers at this point right now as well. So those are some of the big items that we're looking at doing with that money. So with that, there was additional money, which some of this, it was the ESSRF, ESSERF money. We had three different pots of that. One was a grant, there was a competitive grant that Russell wrote and ended up with around $135,000 plus, was that including the 25? Okay, so of that, we originally had budgeted, or he did, originally budgeted $25,000 for connectivity and for helping support students that are out there that have internet connectivity issues. But after the grant was written, the governor released money for that's available for those households. So we had talked to him, or he had talked to them again and said, hey, can we shuffle this and put it back into technology? Other than that, and they said, sure, we can do that. So that gave us that full pool to put into basically our technology budget. And if you want to talk just a little, you can speak to it way better than I can as far as what you're actually spending it on. So if you want to do that, that'd be fine. Do you need a microphone?
So what we're planning to do is utilize that 25,000 to build up the connectivity in the classroom. And I'm not really talking about Wi-Fi or those kinds of things, but things like microphones to help teachers when they're masked so that the students can hear, microphone systems so that if students are remote, they can be heard. And so we've been testing some different technologies on that, and we have some core technologies now that are reasonably functional. They're working pretty well, and so now it's just a matter of getting those in place with the teachers that need them. And all across the district, we have different scenarios of what's needed. We have classes that are partially in, and some students out, and that takes a little bit different mix than those that are in a class but everybody's masked. So just trying to analyze each situation and build technologies that are specific to them and functional for learning.
So with that, that's been very beneficial. That grant was money out there that was just kind of hanging on a limb, but he had to jump through some hoops in about 3 days. It was like, okay, here's the due date. You got to get it done. So a lot of school districts, I don't think even got it done. So we were very fortunate, and we appreciate Russell doing that. So with that, there was a couple other pools. One was for a learning management system. So in lieu of the statewide learning management system, we ended up with about $15,000 that we could use towards a learning management system. So what that means is we can use that towards technology, basically, to get information and platforms out to the students. So that goes into that technology pool as well. We also ended up with about $4,300 in social emotional learning funding. Mindy is currently working on that with Janelle, and we're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do and implement programs with that and try to figure that one out. So those are all monies that are earmarked. So with that, we ended up just recently, and you guys may have heard of this, of the governor's money, what I'm calling the governor's money. He released money saying, look, there's $98 million he took out of the budget for the state. I'm going to put it back in. But the caveat to it is you can't use it just to fill in your budget. So all of this money they've given us, which is great, we'll take it, we're going to use it, we're going to try to be effective with it. They're saying we can't just fill in the cracks if they shorted us on our budget, which is frustrating because that's where we really need to fill in the cracks, is on our budget. But it gives us the opportunity to do some things, in the classrooms that we wouldn't normally be able to do. I mean, that's what the money's for. This was an amount of $358,098. So with that money, we've looked at lots of different scenarios. They say you can't use it for wages and benefits, those type of things. But what we're looking at doing, and I've worked with IEA quite a bit on this with our union. I'm going to talk to our administrative team tomorrow. We actually have a meeting about this. And what we're looking at doing is giving it back to our people. And we can do that in the form of stipends. So basically, there's different forms that you can do this through. It's a very lax reporting, so to speak. They're not asking for a lot of requirements on what we have to report back. Obviously, we have to do it legally, and we have to do it within our auditors' understanding. But we're looking at dividing that up and giving that this X number of dollars to all of our employees. So, and we can do that for things that they've done above and beyond. So if you look at, for example, we could go through each group, but let's just use the teachers, for example, developing online lesson plans. We didn't have a lot of time to do that. They did a lot of that last year, switching over, and then this fall, of course, switching back and forth in some areas. If you look at our custodial staff, they've gone way above and beyond, working a lot of extra hours and doing a lot of different things that they wouldn't normally do just to try to keep things clean. Administrators as well. I mean, I could go through everybody. I mean, Russell is working night and day, his whole department. I mean, there's just so many things that have changed that and last year, if you remember, for us to balance our budget, we were unable to give any raises to anybody. So we were zero across the board. Nobody moved a step. We didn't increase any of the salaries anywhere. So everybody today is making the same as what they were last year at this time. So in good faith, we had talked with negotiations that if we ended up with money that we could put back in, we would open up negotiations again and discuss that. Well, it's not really a salary, but in good faith, I talked to Lindsay, who's the IEA president. We've talked many, many times. We ended up having some meetings together with her group and kind of just discuss what that would look like. Talking to classified staff as well, and we just feel like that it's X number of dollars across the board. Doesn't matter your position, doesn't matter your wage, doesn't matter what you do. The only difference we looked at was if somebody started after July 1st, which we have several employees that start July 1 and go from there to current, or if they started September 1st, which is even less time, those would be different amounts. And then the part-time people versus full-time, if that makes sense. So we're looking at basically 3 different categories. Full-time, somebody who started at July 1, and if somebody started September 1, they wouldn't be involved in it. So July 1 to September 1, and then September 1, basically that's when we got the money, basically. So
everyone's going to get the same amount?
And we were looking at that. So I ran some numbers. We've been through a bunch of different scenarios. I shared the spreadsheet with you.
I like option C.
Option C? They were all numbered.
Or 3.
I'm like 1, 2, C.
1,
4,
2,
5,
C.
6. So as we looked down through these, we were looking at different scenarios for, and you were looking at the one that had with the part-time and the new hires.
Yeah, when we can impact everyone
Yeah.
in the district, the more people that we can
Absolutely.
affect, then I
Yep.
thought there's
Yep.
an advantage to that.
Absolutely.
You leave no one out.
Yep. So if you look at scenario 3 and scenario 5 was the other one, which extends right on across. And those were two different calculations on the amount we would give to part-time versus full-time. So looking at it, what we did is, or basically what I did was I took the full amount, I did all the withholdings, which is your general withholding from your PERSI to all of your, Medicaid, all those different things. So that pool of money has to be taken out and then divided up according to our numbers. So we want to make sure we have those numbers correct before we commit to anything. One of the other calculations, and we talked about this quite a bit, was holding a piece of that back. Is there a reason to hold a piece of that back? And that's what I'm currently working on. And so far, we haven't found a reason to do that because of the things we're wanting to do with the ventilation systems, with the bathrooms, fixtures, those type of things will all fall within that CARES money. This money also has to be spent by December 30th of this year. So it has to go out pretty quickly. And that's a great problem to have. But that's kind of how I came to those conclusions and kind of where we're at with that money. So our total dollars that we've received so far for the CARES for COVID itself is $683,092 is what we've received. And that includes grant money, but the majority of that, over half of that, is earmarked for particular things. And that's what we'll spend it on. So when we have the flexibility, that's something that obviously it would take board approval to be able to approve those stipends and that type of thing as well. So questions on that? That was kind of a long-winded,
All right.
a lot of numbers.
A lot of details.
Yeah.
So in scenario 5, just by reducing the full-time take home by like $18, the part-times each gain 200.
Correct.
That seems like a better deal to me.
So yeah, and we don't have to make a decision on which scenario we want to do tonight. I mean, what my goal is, I want to have a discussion with it, get a feel for where your guys are at. I want you to digest it. Our bottom line is we would have to make a decision by the 11th of November, so we could get it out on November payroll. And that gives us that time. And then if we miss somebody or whatever, it gives us December to do it as well, so we can draw down that money because we have to expend it. Like I said, the only other thing would be something big come up, but even having discussions with everybody, I mean, our biggest investment and our best investment in our school is our people. I mean, we all know that, hands down, it's number one. We can survive without an air conditioner, a heater, or whatever it might be, a leak in the roof, but we got to have the people. And that's where we need to be putting our investment as far as I'm concerned. So
That's why I
and
like.
there will be things come up. We all know that there'll be things come up that we think, oh, wow, we should have probably spent it on that, but we can't second guess that because everybody has spent countless hours. I'm sure we have a few employees somewhere that probably took advantage, but
Well,
overall, I can tell you that is not the norm at all. We have a
also,
bunch of hardworking people.
when we went through negotiations, the staff and the teachers union were incredibly flexible with the situation and agreeing to not do raises. And I feel like that was really in good faith that when we could compensate them, they would. And I feel like this would be, it's not compensation from that pool, but it's still a step in the right direction to spend it on our staff.
Right. I agree. And the relationships that we're building with, within our union and our classified personnel is just, I mean, that's something we've got to have all the time. They're the people doing the work, so we got to keep them in mind first. So like I said, we don't have to do anything unless you guys are just really set on that and comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with the numbers. What might fluctuate a little bit is I'm double checking our staff numbers and making sure that we're, this all kind of hit during a payroll time, and Jessica's fairly new as well, so we're just double checking everything and making sure we have the withholdings right and the dollar amounts right and all that stuff. But trying to get it to everybody if we can. So questions, comments?
Did you say you like scenario 3, Greg?
Yeah, 3 was the one that jumped out at me.
This is significant. It's good.
Yeah.
I just liked
So-
5 because, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to display this if people want to see this, but really what it comes down to is we kind of work down to a scenario where it's about $1,700 take-home pay. That's take-home. That's after taxes and retirement and everything else is taken out for all the full-time, for 154 full-time people. And then we looked at either, somewhere around 1,000 or 1,200, depending on the scenario. And that's what you were talking about. 3 was 1,000 or 1,200 for the part-time. And then the new hires looking at 1,000 or on either one of those was at 1,000. So those are the two scenarios that we kind of ended up down. That's why I came up with 5 scenarios. We just kept working through it a little bit and got a lot of different variables in there. So
I just like 5 because that $1,200 would be a nice, the extra $200 for the part-time is a pretty good impact for only the cost of $18 per full-time.
right. So if you guys would like to, you guys kind of let me know on that, what you want to do, if you want to think about that a little bit, or if you've digested it. That's why I wanted to send that to you guys last week so you had a chance to look at it. I also built a spreadsheet so we could say the potential withholding if we wanted to hold $20,000 out or $30,000 for potential of other things that we might have to spend it on. It wasn't a significant amount. It was about $100 to $150, and you can just plug those numbers in this yellow space that I have. You can just plug that number in and it changes what you need to see down there. So it's a real easy, boom, there it is.
So if you gave us like an option 5, but we held out 20,000 and we held it from that $200.
Yep.
Or you could do like option 5, but the part-time stay at 1,000 and you could let us know what that $200 difference would end up being for holdback.
Let me just pull it up.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me just pull it up and I'll do it for you. I got to find where I'm at here. I drive. This darn new computer. Thanks, Russell, by the way.
Because I like a rainy day fund.
So if I am able to put in, what did you say, just 20,000 off of that?
Or even, or even if you just
So
took
so if I do here, let me just share the screen here again so everybody can see it. There's no secrets here. And again, this is based on the numbers that I currently have. So if you look at taking 20,000 out, that changes the scenario 5 to 1578 versus just go to 0, it changes it to 1708.
But it's only changing the full times.
Yeah, that was only, unless we wanted to change the others as well. So,
Well,
yeah,
like what if your scenario 5 was if it took $100 off the full-time and $100 off the part-time, where would that put us for what we're withholding?
It'd just be $1,400 off the part-time and the other, so you're talking.
Aren't there many part-time?
154 full-time.
Yeah.
So you'd be at like 16.8.
Right.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
So anyway, that's, my recommendation is, to stay down in that scenario 3 or 5, because the way we have it divided, I think is a good, comfortable way. And I think IEA is comfortable with that as well. And I think everybody will be happy with that situation, dividing it that way, just because of the kind of the amount of time they were with us during this time. So it's up to you guys, however you want to do it.
I think we should do it.
Can
we?
We don't have it on our.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do. Yay. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's an action item.
Okay, good.
I mean, how often do you get something like this come down the road?
And that's the thing, we've had a lot of meetings with, our superintendent's group and discussed a lot of it. And we've talked to the state about it. We've talked to our attorneys about it. We've talked to lots of different individuals trying to figure out, and we've talked to the governor's office about it. And what they've said is this needs to be money that's spent for things that are above and beyond.
I agree.
And not necessarily for people, but things that are above and beyond.
Right.
Well, we have the other COVID money that we're going to be able to squeeze out what we need to do. And my priorities are, like I said, I'd like to do ventilation in the gymnasiums, and I'd like to do the hands-free type things in all the bathrooms. Those are definitely COVID related. And then we have other expenses we've already spent, about $40,000 that we've already spent on just supplies and materials and those type of things that we've done over time. And that's what the principals pulled out of their reports, or things that we'd already purchased: disinfectants, dividers, masks, shields, whatever, just all different kinds of things we put together on that. So with our nurse and everybody else. So
If we went down to 1,600 on the full-time and 1,000 on the part-time on scenario 5, that brings you to almost 20,000. Like 19,545.96.
But we still have to spend that money by the end of the year,
yes.
right?
We
Yeah,
do.
it's sitting there in a pot right now, and we have to show that we've spent.
So we're
By
gonna have to
December 30th.
decide what we're gonna do with $20,000 at the end, before the end of the year.
Right. Yeah, you can't carry that over.
Yeah.
And we had talked about that if there was something big. One of our problems we're running into, for example, we have some ventilation and kind of air circulation disinfecting units that we've ordered for Orofino Elementary back in the backside of the library. It wasn't, it's divided where it wasn't designed for that. So there's no airflow, there's no windows, there's no way of flowing air. So we've ordered that stuff, but it's been back ordered for 60 days. So we haven't even been able to install it. I just talked to Aaron Turner today, and he's like, I don't know when it's coming in because I had it ordered forever. So, I mean, that's what we run into. So if you can obligate your money, I mean, we can obligate it, but this money should be spent. The governor was very
You don't
specific
really
about
need it for that, though. It sounds
No.
like you've got this other money.
We're working with the other money.
CARES
We'll work
money.
within that budget.
Yeah.
So
Who makes a decision on how the money can be used? Is that the federal government or the state?
So this money was released, and this was different than normal. The governor
Yeah.
actually made that decision.
Oh,
The governor said, I want to put this money back in circulation. I want to give it back to the schools. And they based it on our ADA from last year, which is on here. And when that ADA, hopefully that'll hold true for the next year. Hopefully they'll give us a buy this year. But then they said, you have to spend it. We want you guys to spend it. And then, of course, we said, oh, we can put it on salaries. And they said, no, you can't put it on salaries. Well, how about
but you can
stipends?
call it a stipend.
And they said, yes,
Bonus
you can do
type
that.
Call it
thing.
like-
Yeah.
You can call it a stipend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Online planning and
COVID stipend.
extra.
So what
work.
we'll do, we talked about reporting hours and reporting the activities and all that stuff, but really what they're looking for is a list of what has been done. Online activities, extra cleaning,
there's been a big
mask
list.
enforcement.
Yeah.
You could just go on and on about these lists of things that you wouldn't normally do.
Right.
And you've done some of those within, and that's all they're looking for.
Yeah.
So our auditor has to be able to justify it.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? I wanted to explain that as much as I could. I know there's a lot of numbers there and a lot of dollars.
Okay.
Good?
Good.
Okay.
All right. So next up is our executive session. I assume you're going to give us some information that we need to apply to our action items. So we will step out somewhere.
Yeah, we can do that. Shut your,
Microphones.
you have a room request for
We need to
Angie?
go
make
into
sure-
executive session.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we'll need
get
a
rid of
motion, a second, and then a roll call.
I move that we move into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206A.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to move into executive session pursuant Idaho Code 74-2061A. All in favor with roll call, please? Is,
Jessica, you
Jessica?
still there?
I'm ready. I'm here.
okay, go ahead
Sorry.
and do a roll call.
Trustee Robinson,
Yes?
Trustee Giroux, Trustee Erbst,
Yes.
Trustee Pomponio,
Yes.
Trustee Billups.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
Thank
We'll
you.
be back in a
And Angie, you make sure yours is muted off of there.
I'll mute. You can either take me or do you want me to just call you?
Just call me on my cell phone. It's fine.
Okay, I'll call you.
All right, thank you. Will you make sure she's muted, Russell? Thank you. Okay.
back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Go.
Jessica, just go to 8:14.
Okay.
All right. So we will pick back up our action items, starting with policy update series, C-series. Oh, and there's a few things we clarify on these.
Yep, let's do it.
If
I'm
you-
going to pull up the recommendations so everybody
Yep.
can see it.
These get pretty complicated.
They do. So just for clarification, these C ones will be off to the side of our regular policies, and they'll be enacted until, I mean, once we approve them or you guys approve them, until we say they're no longer needed. So the other policies will still be there, but these will supersede the others. Make sense? Okay. Just clarifying.
So there will be a few things that we have to clarify that were blanks or that we have to
Yes.
choose options.
Did you look through the recommendations on there?
I did.
Okay.
Although there's one error.
Oh,
So
correct me.
the one that was 3520C, you said option 1 or option 2. You had said option 1, but I think you meant option 2 for non-invasive daily screening. So
Non-
option 1 was taking daily temperatures.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted the non-invasive.
Option 2 was parents verify that they have no
Yes.
fever symptoms.
Right.
Yep.
We were not going to do the.
So we want
non-invasive. That's good.
option 2. Okay.
Well, my apologies.
No worries.
Thank
It's
you.
always easier doing it the second time than the first time.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Oh, and then just a couple, if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to keep going through this. Jump in if you need to. So did we need to clarify for 2210 P2C, I have written down, the number of days that, like, it had specifications of the superintendent can close the school for a certain number of days and then reopen after a certain number of days?
Right. So, yeah, that was something we would need to discuss.
Yep. Okay.
So if you look at our existing, it says that it doesn't have days in it. It just says I can close and
Mhm.
then you guys can override if necessary and reopen. So as needed is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
Indefinitely, I think is what it says. See if Greg was listening.
Mm-hmm. He's
He
not.
wasn't. He was not listening. So that, yeah, we need to figure out those days. But right now, if we're on this 2-week cycle,
Mhm.
and again, that was a question I was going to ask you guys as well as we're talking about these policies, is we still want to continue to meet every 2 weeks, or do we want to start stretching that out to a month? And do you guys feel comfortable with that or not? And that's, it puts more on me to make those decisions. I get that. And I don't mind either way. I'm just bringing that up because every 2 weeks is fine if we want to continue to do that. But
This empowers you to do it, and then we can always come back.
right. And the point of it, even with the 2 weeks, if you guys override a decision that I've made last week, I mean, that's your prerogative and that's no hard feelings. That's part of the system. And I get it. So, I mean, we've kind of gotten a routine of doing what we have to do. And I know the plan is difficult to follow at times just because of particular situations at each school, and I think that what we've proved already is we're going to do minimal. And obviously that doesn't feel like that at Orofino Junior Senior High School, but those were pretty unique situations, both of those times we closed, that hopefully we don't come across again. Hopefully. So anyway, we can go back to these policies. It was just a question.
Okay. But a lot of these policies actually cover like all of the things that we've been discussing for the last 2 months,
Yes.
really, which is
Pretty
really nice
much
that they're
keeping
finally
things the
impossible.
same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It just like following public health recommendations,
Mhm.
allowing him to make those decisions based on public health recommendations, and then we either revoke or support that decision at the next meeting. So there are some fill-ins and choices that we have to do.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
do
Let's
you want to
it.
go through from top down? Okay.
Yep. Either way, I can find them.
Let's see. You have the top numbers first. Okay. So I guess I just wrote notes and everything. If you want to just clarify which ones actually need to be decided on.
So any of these with the options, we looked at the options too. And as a group, we went through and said which one is either fits us or which one do we need to be doing, and fitting what we've designed with our own our own plans or operation plan and those type of things. So that's where we went through those. So if you want to go through them, I guess we can go through them individually if you want to.
Maybe just the ones that needed like a decision. Does that make sense? Some of them you've made comments and other
Yeah,
ones
there are
needed
some
decisions.
blank spots and some of them
Yeah.
that needed to be filled out. How many days, for example?
Mhm. So it looks like the first one with an option was 3520.
Okay.
And that's what we just clarified, that it would be, we were
Non-invasive.
kind of, what he's recommending is option number 2, that parents would verify that the student does not have any fever or symptoms, as opposed to actually screening all of the students at the door with temperatures. We've not been doing that. So that would be what he's recommending. And then not to adopt 3050, which I don't think was even in there, was it? Or I didn't write it down.
Yeah, I can pull all these up if you want.
That's
me to
okay.
pull them up.
And so for 2315, you're recommending to add the recommended option of breaking down the recess groups into smaller sizes if needed.
It basically just gave us that option.
Mhm.
So we wanted to keep those options open.
And then I guess then the last thing would be the number of days for the superintendent to be able to close the school.
And I think that's based on, again, how long is it from board meeting to board meeting is really what it comes down to. And that was why I brought that up actually, was because that did spur that. If we want to do it every 2 weeks and continue that, it's up to you guys. I know getting board meetings ready and preparation, all that stuff takes a lot of time, but it takes time every meeting, doesn't matter. But managing COVID is, COVID, budget, meetings. That's kind of my three thing world right now, over and over and over, communication. So
Yeah, I guess
that's totally up to you
I guess
guys.
we wonder whether the question is, should we continue on the 2-week
Right.
schedule? Yeah.
And, and we told our patrons we would. And I think, being consistent with what we're doing, and consistent when I say that is following public health recommendations is what we've been consistent. That's the number one thing we've been consistent with.
Right.
And I want to continue to do that, even as they evolve and change, because they're the ones that are the experts. And it does throw us into a tailspin occasionally, but that's kind of the nature of the beast at this point. And hopefully we don't have to do those things.
Dr. Garrett,
Yes.
I think it's important though that the patrons know that public health does not recommend that we go from green to yellow or back from yellow to green. Ever. That's our decision, and
Right.
not
Right.
based on recommendation by public
Right.
health.
They do not. We do that in our own district. That is a board decision recommendation from me. Yes.
And because of that, maybe we ought to stay with the 2 weeks.
And I'm fine with
Because
that.
we're constantly evaluating. Look how quickly it's changing.
Oh, it changes
I think
every day.
I think we have to. 2 weeks goes by pretty quickly, but not when you're dealing with stuff
Right.
every day like you
Right.
guys are. So
And one of the things that, like I told you guys earlier, it changes every single day, and it's a matter of getting a phone call or text almost instantly, 7 o'clock at night because somebody's kid is sick or just got a, result back, or, a parent or whatever it might be. I mean, we get those all the time. So we're having to make adjustments accordingly. So I don't mind that. I'm not looking for that extra responsibility. Trust me. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just bringing it up because at some point, we're going to have to be comfortable with where we're at and what we're doing and how we're doing it, and then just routinely. But for now, I'm fine with it. I mean, it feels like we went through a year and a half of this, but we're only in October.
I
Just
think
so
we
you
need
know.
to stay with the 2
Okay.
weeks for now because we've told the patrons that that's what we're going to do. So I think essentially that's what we need to do. And we need to be able to look at
Fine by
it.
me.
Yeah.
So with that, the policies that you're talking about, so we need to probably say whatever those dates coincide. So, from a day after a board meeting to the next. So there's going to be basically 14 calendar days, but that really only equates to a maximum of 8 days of school that I could possibly say, hey, we're going to close until the board reevaluates or whatever, if we have to do that. Does that make sense? And that will limit that, which is fine by me. And like I said, anytime that we have that, we have a meeting, if it's overridden or whatever we decide to do, that's what we need to do. That's why we have those discussions. I may miss something, but I know that we're constantly communicating as administrators and with public health and, parents and teachers, and we're just constantly talking to people. So doing the best we can.
So you would recommend a maximum of 8 days, then that would cover the 2-week time period?
If you guys are okay with that, because I don't think that's going to happen like that next, but the way things change, you never know. So,
But this is policy, right? So
right.
is this going to be something we do permanently or?
Oh, this is
no?
only for COVID.
Right.
This
Oh,
entire series is just
it's
for
the
COVID.
Yep.
series.
It's the COVID
Gotcha.
series. That's why
Yeah,
it's
that's
C.
what it is.
Yep.
I
Yep.
understand
So,
that,
like I
but-
said, I'll have it under a separate heading on our website. So it's only the COVID series,
Yeah.
and make a note beside it that says these basically override anything we existing. So this,
So we can change this anytime?
yeah,
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we do.
you guys are the policy people.
And it just allows, and it doesn't mean he would close it for 8
Right,
days every time.
right.
It just gives him up to 8
Right.
days between our board meetings.
Right.
And if there is a point where, two of you, all you have to do is say, hey, we need to meet, discuss this before
Right.
the next meeting. We can have a phone meeting. We can do whatever we need to
Right.
do. Yep.
Yep. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
perfectly comfortable with that.
Yep.
So, and what was the other part of that? There was
It
update days.
actually could be that one could be the same. It's like the superintendent can
Okay.
close for 8 days or
Mhm.
reopen after 8 days. It would probably
Right.
work for either one.
Okay.
And I think there was one on 4140 that talked about using the school facilities for non-school meetings. It was an option. Do we want to option yes or option no on that?
So we've been allowing that
Oh,
if
yeah.
people give us a plan of what they're going to do to clean up after. So it's a pretty simple procedure, and we've been allowing people to do that if they ask.
So no to the option then.
Right.
Okay.
So we just say yes, they can use it. Give us a plan.
Okay.
And obviously it's like anything else, we have precedence over if we have an activity going on. So what will happen with these is I will send these changes to ISBA, and then they plug these in, and then I'll send them to you guys for to make sure it matches up with what we decided before I attach them anywhere. But so
What
those
was
changes.
the 3051 again? It says do not adopt.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'll get
seeing
there.
that
Hang
one.
on a second. Sounds like he's drilling something back there, but that's that sprayer, isn't it? What'd you say it was? 3050?
3050, yeah, the do not adopt one.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
there
it was the attendance policy. And,
Oh,
and we
okay.
put an attendance policy in our plan on what
Gotcha.
we were going to do. So we wanted to have that flexibility where we could have a kid in or out either
And
way.
not have it,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Just clarifying.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if we have everything covered on that form of yours, if we can just approve your form. Let's see.
I think with those
The
recommendations.
policies with
yeah.
with as documented
Yep.
recommendations.
Yep.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll send those to ISBA, and then like I said, as soon as I get those back, I will send them back out to you to verify, so you guys can just look them over, make sure it goes in line with what you think it should be, and before I ever post them. So, and if there's any changes to them or whatever, we can redo that our next one. So
Okay.
I'm good with that. I have to ask Russell how the audio is working this time. Third time's a charm.
That's everything. Okay. Anybody want to give a motion? I'd do it for you, but I can't.
I move we approve the policy updates listed as C series as listed.
I would second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the policies listed C series. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let me get back to, okay, next one is action items of school operational plan.
So just giving you the current status of where we're at is we're currently under all employees for the district masked or distanced, where distancing cannot be obtained. And we are also under yellow, correct? If I remember right, for OJSHS and for OES. So
Well, I move that we continue that plan the way it's
Okay.
been under the yellow and then all staff masked as we voted last time.
I'll second.
So let's see, I have a motion and a second for approval of school operational plan as it currently is in yellow with all staff masked.
Yeah, yellow for Orofino, right?
Yeah, you said yellow
Orofino,
for-
junior, senior high school and for
Orofino Junior Senior High
Elementary.
School and Orofino Elementary School.
Correct.
Right.
Okay,
That's what you said.
so moved and seconded for current school operational plan in yellow for Orofino Junior Senior High School and Orofino Elementary School and all staff masked. Any further discussion or further?
Yes, I have something real quick. Even though we seem to see some momentum headed in a sort of positive direction with the way the cases are going right now, I would like to point out that as of October 10th in the state of Washington, 321 outbreaks in healthcare settings where PPE is required, including masks, face coverings. An additional 659 outbreaks recorded in long-term care facilities where the masks, again, are required. And CDC reports 11 medical institutions reported in July that the 71% of those testing positive reported that they wore masks all the time. Another 14% said most of the time, making 85% of those positive at those 11 medical institutions reporting 85% of mask wearers ended up COVID positive. So we should be prepared that the efficacy of masks is questionable.
So just to make a comment on that, that we do know that masks alone are not 100% and that eye coverings do help that as well. But that'll just be my 2 cents. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Hey,
Motion carries. Moving on to action items 3, governor's money use.
Yeah, again, this goes back to what we had discussed about putting the money out to our individuals or our employees. So if that's what you would like to do, the scenarios that we have for part-time, the difference is from 1,000 to 1,200. I know that Angie had talked about a different scenario as well. Is there, if you guys are wanting to move forward with that, we need to come up with the final numbers and do that. So. What was it you had asked or recommended, Angie?
Well, I was just, the board wants to hold a little bit back to be safe, if we think there might be expenses that could be applied to, if we think it's just going to end up that we need to spend it by the end of the year, it wouldn't apply. But I was just saying, if the full-time staff went down to 1,600 or 1,600 even, and we took part-time staff down to 1,000 on that option 5, and then left it for the new hires at 1,000, that comes out to just under 20,000. If that was a number, a number that people wanted to hold back, but that was just if they want to hold back.
Right. So again, just so we're clear on that, the money does have to be spent by December 30th of this year. So if we hold back, I mean, we can certainly find something else to spend it on, but that's totally up to you guys.
I think the question would be maybe posed to Russell as far as need. It seems like the biggest burden has probably been placed upon him as far as the distance learning, the challenges that he's had to meet. Is there something $20,000 could be used for in your world?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Jeez, Russell.
Is this personal?
No, but I just think that IT could always spend $20,000.
I'm not sure just where we're gonna be on needs. I feel like we're in pretty good shape right now. And it depends on what level we want to try to step classroom cases with cameras not even do. So I think we can get the job done with what we have. Could we spend more? I'd probably spend more.
What did you expect? Come on.
Yeah.
This is Russell, the technology.
Yeah, well, and it just I know that with the money that's already earmarked, I'm sure you'll put that to good use. But if you felt like there was a shortfall somewhere, and Angie did compute to the point where the impact to the employees would still be great enough, even if we did hold back that $20,000 in case you did run into something. I think that's wise on her part, and something we should consider.
And
I don't know exactly where we are in budget-wise, because we spent some money that's gonna get reimbursed back from CARES, I think. So it's really difficult for me. I don't know exactly where I am right now because we have so many funding sources.
So
We had a large pullback for technology here, but we tried to backfill out with CARES money.
And we did.
And
now
we had pre-spent some money from this year,
Right.
last year, why we had the phone books we needed because we ordered them in April. But that came out of this year budget.
Right.
So hope everyone's following that at home.
Yeah. Well, if you were there, you would have seen it. But with your grant has filled back in some of that as well, because some of those things were, items obviously are above and beyond, but some of those were items that we were going to try to pull from the CARES money. Anyway, not all of it off by any means.
So what we haven't done, that we talked about, the access control, security cameras and some things like that. Those are things that have really been back burner because we've had the COVID situation. So we've kind of discussed some of those things. I don't have a very good answer for that. I don't know exactly what we are.
Well, okay, so what, we hold back 20 grand has to be spent by the end of the year. Great. So maybe Russ, no offense, Russ, I know technology is wonderful, but maybe Terry needs something for
Right.
custodial, or
So
they might need something in the kid, what I
Right.
mean? There's lots of other areas too that we can spend.
So
it
at
on.
this point, and I think I can safely say we haven't done without on anything that we've had to do that was what you're talking about, anything kind of above and beyond and COVID related, because all of that CARES money, we have to literally fill out a spreadsheet that says we used it for this, or that. Was it material supplies? Was it, what was it?
Yeah.
So those things are already earmarked. Those things are already in works. We're looking at doing some of these bigger items. Yeah, would it be nice to have, another 50,000 to help spend on more units and more air and more, disinfecting units? Absolutely. But I'm going to say this with a big but, our people are pretty important.
Yeah.
Do you-
I just want to emphasize that.
No, I
You-
get that.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
putting
no,
it out there broadly that, you know.
believe me,
maybe
I've-
there's-
we went
Yeah,
through a
you
lot of
did.
spreadsheets and a lot of information trying to get to that. And really,
Yeah.
the bottom line is if we saved it back, we can earmark that and we can go ahead and move forward with some new technology and some new different things. But
Mhm.
getting that, I know that's an issue. Trying to actually get things is
Mhm.
difficult.
Well, then maybe
So we
let's
can
just
obligate.
give it all to the employees then.
I agree.
Yeah,
Agree.
And that's something we said
I
we
like
would do if
option
we had the money.
5.
Yeah. I do too.
Let's not hold it back because then we're gonna, I think,
Yeah.
I,
It's got to be
I
spent.
actually,
We're
one of
just
the
gonna
options
spend
I
it.
put a few out was something like, okay, well, let's give, 2/3 of it to them now and then say that a third and something came up, but we're talking about 6 weeks.
No.
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna end up going, well, we got to spend
All right.
$20,000.
Then I'll
Which
move.
I could do.
Yeah.
Then
So the final number on that will be contingent on making sure we have the exact number. So that may vary. I want to make sure that you guys understand that. I'm pretty confident in that 154 plus 14 plus 8, but I want to make sure before, so whenever we do that, if you guys decide to do that, we'll say we're going to spend it equally with these amounts, roughly this based on the numbers. Does that make sense?
Like based on a scenario, but not the exact dollar.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we'll make that adjustment based on if there's a discrepancy, we'll make that adjustment. So it could change,
Okay.
but it's not going to be significant. Those are pretty
Okay.
close.
Then I move that we go ahead and approve spending the governor's money based on option 5 on Dr. Garrett's spreadsheet
Second.
with, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the, what's it called? Governor's money use according to Dr. Garrett's spreadsheet labeled option 5.
Right. Amen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent.
Yay.
Awesome.
Okay.
I want to thank you guys, the board, for that. There's been a lot of people doing a lot of things that they would normally do in this. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
It's one of the fun things we get to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yay.
that was
How's
fun.
it feel just to spend 358,000?
Feels great.
Like a Monday.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Good one.
Okay. New hires and separations.
I move we accept the new hires and recognize any resignations that need recognized.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept new hires and recognize resignations. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And that completes our action items, right?
So the next special board meeting will be November 2nd on Monday.
Oh, boy.
And then the regular board meeting will be November 16th.
Okay.
November 16th on here just because it's a regular one, so. November 2nd. Good with that?
Mhm.
I can't hear that.
Oops, sorry, November 2nd for the next special meeting.
Yep. Still not really hearing you.
Let me try that again.
Oh, that's so much better.
If I turn my microphone on, it works. That's amazing.
So much better.
Thank you, Russell. Come on, man.
Thank you, Bob Barger.
Sorry. November 2nd for the special meeting. November 16th for the regular.
And
Super.
any board member input for future agenda items?
Will you just let us know on those numbers if there's any adjustment?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to take just a second to thank all you guys again. This was conversations we had. I appreciate it. It was good. So thank you all for that. And our
Thank you,
microphones seem to be working. We streamed on YouTube and holy cow.
Wow,
Light is
I
good.
like it.
21st
I'd
century
say
board.
that's what they pay us
Oh, I
the
know.
big bucks for, but.
Yeah, that's why we spend the big bucks.
Is anybody
That's the big
attending the virtual conference this year for ISBA? Because I suppose that would need to be signed up for pretty soon.
Yep.
Okay.
So yes, we
cannot.
can do it. You cannot.
No.
So we signed up and I believe we had, when is it? Is it Next
Um,
week?
It's like the
November.
8th, 9th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th of November.
Yeah, and it's all virtual, so I mean,
Mhm.
you can sign up, I think up towards the end of it. They're
Okay.
not limiting numbers
When you
like
can
what they
sign up.
normally did. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I saw is you could sign up anytime and do it. So I'd encourage you, there's some good, look at it and see if there's anything that interests you. There's some good ones in there.
I think we have Juvenile Justice Conference virtual same night.
So you went
Yes.
last year, didn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, her and I
You-
both
yeah.
did. Mhm.
And like, there's always some good pieces in it. You know, there's some good ones, especially the legal ones are the ones that are, and you know what the topic will be this year. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we all know what the topic will be. What we discuss every 2 weeks is what the topic will be. So, yeah, I think we could, you know, I think we were kind of on the nose of that. But hopefully it'll just, you know, it'll taper out, but we'll see.
I remember, yeah, we're usually vendors.
So, you good?
Okay, well, adjourn. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been.
See you
around
guys.
for a while.